Welcome, everyone. You made it to Tuesday, March 24th, at our work session, 6 p.m. The meeting is now called to order. We're moving on to our roll call. I see Joan Cathy virtually, and Peter Agabi just manifested onto the screen. Nice to see you, Peter. Everyone else is in attendance in person. Item number, our item number 3 is a proclamation that we're doing in a work session because of timing. And the person who's supposed to receive it is not here yet. So.
We do the first item, and then perhaps if he comes late, then we build him back in the agenda. Buds or Dora. Bobby. Bobby. Make sure you're going to the box.
Thank you. You know what? Details. The details. Can we even get into the building? It's a great question.
Brandon just got it.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's move on. We're going to move on to item number 4. Okay. And then if Rabbi Yosef shows up, awesome. Yeah. Then we adjust. Is everyone good with that? Informal work session anyway. Thank you so much. Item number 4, 10-year forecast. Troy, are you going to go into Senher? Did we start the music? Are we reenacting? Okay. And you start.
My little. Right, so let's just jump right in. I know we've got a lot on the agenda tonight. So typically before I start
starting with the fiscal cliff, really?
Yes.
Okay.
This is the fiscal cliff from 2004.
Okay.
Need some context. So before I do a projection and look forward, I like to look back. It's kind of that adage of to know where you're going, you need to know where you've been. So for this presentation, I looked back deep down in the finance files and found this from 2012. This was prepared for the 2013-2014 budget. And they did it a little bit differently, but the concept is the same. The red line is ending fund balance. And you can see in 2012, it was at its high point, and it was projected to drop below the minimum reserve level in just 2 years in 2014, before really taking a nosedive and looking really bad in 2017. So part of a couple items of context to point out, the green line, which is the ending fund balance reserve target, or the minimum fund balance level that we want, was only 1 month worth of expenditures at that time, or about 8%. Now it's doubled. Changed that just a few years ago to make it about 16.8%, almost 17%. So today we have a much higher reserve level that we. Also, for context, obviously this was a long time ago, and we're still here. The city is not bankrupt. We did not fall off the cliff. We continue to move the cliff out further and further and further, and we'll get to the most current fiscal cliff here in a little bit. One more slide from the same budget. This is 2012, and this was in the same presentation. And just a couple interesting things on this is we had courts back then. The second one up from the bottom. We don't have anymore. We started contracting with the county for that in 2013. And then when I glanced at that property tax line, I thought, oh, that's increasing way too fast. That can't be right. And I did not look at all the data points, but I looked at the 2019 level, and it was pretty spot on. Almost. Oh, do we want to pause and do this? Okay. Okay. And then I looked at sales tax, and it was about 50% too low on the projection in 2019. But so that is no judgment on the person who prepared this. The farther you try to forecast out, the more room there is for error. And it's a forecast based on information you have today, forwarded to so that
So we have some special guests here. Do you mind if we pause, acknowledge our guests, go through that proclamation so they can enjoy the rest of their evening? I doubt they want to sit through our 10-year forecast. I mean, it is pretty exciting. Welcome. Who do you have with you, Rabbi?
These are my two sons, Denzel and Lady.
Hi. So we have a proclamation that Councilmember Swarthout is going to read.
So sorry, guys, that I'm late.
We never apologize for life. We understand it takes a while to travel to our hamlet.
I would like to be able to read the proclamation. Whereas the basis for the continuity of any society is education, and the education of our youth is a priority in the city of Tumwater. And whereas in order to achieve its highest goals, education must not only impart knowledge, but also teach students how to live, forming and strengthening their moral character to make a better life for themselves as individuals and for society as a whole. And whereas a global spiritual leader and leading advocate for the advancement of education, Rabbi Menachem M. Schneerson of righteous memory stressed a moral, ethical education empowers every individual to develop their full potential in making the world a better place. And whereas such an education can nurture unity of diverse peoples through encouraging increased acts of kindness, endued with awareness that even a single positive act of an individual can transform our state and change the world. And whereas in 1978, President Jimmy Carter designated Schneerson's birthday as National Education Day. Education and Sharing Day is observed each year on the Rebbe's birthday in recognition of his outstanding and lasting contributions towards the improvement of education and acts of charity around the world. A day to pause and reflect on our responsibility to ensure our youth have the foundation necessary to lead lives rich in purpose and fulfillment through service and good works. And whereas 2026 will mark 124 years since the Rebbe's birth, capping a year in which thousands of new institutions and initiatives were launched throughout the world in tribute to the celebration. Now, therefore, Lietta Dolhoff, Mayor of the City of Tumwater, does hereby proclaim March 29th, 2026, Education and Sharing Day, and calls upon the people of the City of Tumwater to work together to create a better, brighter, and more promising future for all.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Are you three open to a photo op as council?
I would love that. Nobody did.
Come on, it's gonna be great. So fun.
Thank you.
And then we can get Joan and Peter.
Yay. Thank you all. Awesome.
Want to take pictures of that?
No, thank you. Can you sit in just a little? Yep, perfect.
Thank you. Sure. I just want to, first of all, I just want to thank the entire council for welcoming us here today and honoring Education and Sharing Day in such a beautiful way. It's become a Tumwater tradition. But this year is extra special with Mayor Dolph honoring his first time as mayor. And it's so special to be back with you once again to honor this special day. And in a world that's facing global crisis on so many fronts, it's so special to feel that here in our hometown of Tumwater, we know that such an emphasis is put on proactive initiatives like highlighting the need for education. And when the Rebbe's passion of education was unique in stressing that education is not just filling our minds with knowledge, but teaching us how to live and how to be conscious about our responsibilities to the world and to use that information that we are ingrained in it and use to be something that helps us be contributing members of society to make this world a better place. And it's so special to celebrate that idea together here with you. And I hope that this Education Day adds just another bit of energy to making our city and our world at large a kinder, more loving, and more welcoming space for everyone. And I'm looking forward to celebrating lots of good things in the upcoming 10 years as we're planning ahead, and of course, Education Day going forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Now, you're welcome to stay the whole entire evening.
Okay.
We'll be back.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you again. Getting big. Thank you.
Blueberry to deliver today.
Oh, yeah.
Very special.
Wasn't sure if it was on film or not.
Yeah.
Honorary.
Thanks, guys, so much.
We will now, thank you for everyone's flexibility. We'll now transition back to the edge of your seat 10-year forecast where Troy was on slide 4.
Well, was it still the 1%? Was that still the cap? Okay.
Yeah, that 1% cap came around.
Oh, was it better? Okay.
That team started with the Tim Hyman initiative. It was struck down.
Didn't realize it was longer.
Sorry.
Baltimore.
Thank you.
Don't say that name.
Right, can you actually go back one?
Yeah.
What was the big jump there with the utility tax and what was it, 2009? You know? Yeah, well, but then it seems like it dropped back down. I'm just wondering, like, what the big jump there was. You weren't here either? Okay. Yeah, we'll get you
That was an extra cold winter. Honestly, no, it was an extra cold winter, and when the heating bills jump up like that, because one of my old departments was funded primarily
That
from
was
the
that
utility tax.
snowstorm.
Yep.
Oh,
We
For
had spikes
2
in our,
weeks with no power.
You're right, yeah.
we had a community center collapse. from
I know, because my dad
snow.
died. Any more questions for him?
Nope, sorry to bring up bad memories. Moving on.
We also had a recession. Yeah. Recession.
Right.
Good question.
Yep, no bad question. Okay, so what informs a revenue forecast? Or sorry, I keep calling it revenue, just a forecast, because it's revenues and expenditure. So historical data, as I mentioned, we look at the current state of the economy, what we think the future state of the economy is going to be, the big headline numbers like employment, inflation, GDP, things like that, consumer confidence, and also what risks are out there that we need to consider. I also read up on what the economists are saying, what's the global outlook, what's the national and state data saying, and then finally what's our local Tumwater data saying. The situation might be different than other situations elsewhere.
Thank you for the large fonts on the prior
I
slide,
tried, yeah, and
but not on the next one. Thank you.
there might be some slides where there's some numbers that are hard to see, but I tried to mitigate for them. Okay, so last time I did this update was middle of 2024 as we were preparing for that budget. And then looking back between 2006 and 2023, we were averaging over $1.5 million a year in revenue increases, about an average of 6.34%. Sales tax was $264,000 a year average increase, 266% over those 17 years. And if we shorten that sales tax window to 2014 to 2013, 14 to 2023, that average was $416,000 a year, 243% increase over that 9-year period. So it was growing pretty fast, pretty robust growth.
And Troy, is that because of population increase and more shopping in Costco and Home Depot?
All those things, yeah.
Okay.
The percentages go up too, like sales tax percentages for those jump.
They may have. I didn't look back at that. It's possible they did. So here's here's a bunch of the revenue data, the major categories we talk about frequently, shown graphically. The top line is miscellaneous, and as a reminder, that's kind of everything other than those other major categories you see. So that includes the state shared revenues like motor vehicle fuel tax, marijuana tax, liquor tax, things like that. And it also includes grants, which is why from 2020 onward, you see such volatility in that number, because we had pandemic funding and things like that. So you get a big grant one year and that spikes way up, and then you don't get it the next year. What else? Sales tax, you can see big jump in there as well in 2020. And that one. Expense trends. This is might be a little bit hard to see, but this is the different general fund departments. So you've got fire at the top in yellow, police just below that. They usually track pretty close. And you'll see in 2020, 24 to 25, that big spike in the fire expense, and that's due to the new Medic 1 unit. So you can see that in our data already. The general government, that's all, again, all the support departments like legal, finance, HR, and then the light blue line in the middle that shows a lot of volatility there, that's Public Works Transportation. And that's due to both grant funding and large projects being done. Get more money in 1 year, spend it on the project, and then the next year we're doing so. This next one just shows it's the same data, a little more up close, a smaller window from 2016 because I wasn't sure how good that was going to show up on the screen. This one interesting thing with this one though, and sorry, it changes all the colors, so if that doesn't throw you off, but the bottom right, you'll see that little green line, which is general fund sustainability. So that's kind of a new one that we've been doing sustainability work for a little while, but it lived in utilities only, and now general fund is picking up a share of that. So that. Okay, so this is a picture, small picture of a very large spreadsheet. And the next few slides are good. So this kind of shows you the actual projection on the actual. So if you were on a computer and you scrolled this way to the left, it goes back to 2006. If you scroll way to the right, it goes out to 2050. And then each year as we finish a year, so you see 2025 kind of in the middle there. So that's year we just finished, and I removed the budget piece and refilled out with actual numbers. And so for 2026, those are budgeted numbers, but the reason some of those are red is because I'm proposing changing some of those. Based on the revenue shortfalls we had on the budget to actual basis last year, I'd like to reduce expectations for some of that. Fix the mistake that I made with sales tax, reduce property tax a little bit, and I'll get into specifics. Okay, so if you were to scroll down on this spreadsheet, down below that area, you come to this, and this is how I update projections. Each year builds off the last. So for 2027, I say, okay, I think property tax is going to increase by 3%. That's a formula that feeds into the area up above and gives the new projection. Go through all that and say, okay, how much do we think is sales tax going to increase or decrease, and by how much? And those are kind of the assumptions that go into it. And then that just squishes it all together so you can see that.
So I have a question for you, Troy. So with the way that the economy is going, gas prices increasing, food costs increasing, have you put that in here? Have you changed your projections for that?
Yeah.
All right.
Good question, Andrew.
Does that pop up in sales tax? Is that why your projections lower?
That's, yeah, part sales tax. Hard, for some of the others, like in miscellaneous where it has motor vehicle fuel tax and some of those other things, it's harder to say how that's going to work. I mean, on one hand, with higher gas prices, no, maybe not. Fuel tax a set amount, or is it? Anyway, well, either way, people may say gas is too expensive. I'm not driving. I'm going to ride my bike to work now, or I'm getting an electric vehicle. So that could actually decrease that revenue, change their behaviors based on prices, or Okay, so this is, you've seen before, this was 2025 budget to actual and the 1.6 million in the bottom right of revenue difference. And this is what I would like to revise it to, unless there were any strong objections, but, basically reduce property tax by 590,000, reduce sales tax by 905. Actually proposing raising the B&O tax expectation a little bit because that was above budget, same with utility tax, reducing that at 1, our total reduction of 1.1 million in revenue for 2026. This shows the budget savings we had in 2025, dollars that we did not spend. But I am not recommending reducing the expenditure budget in 2025, 2026, as there's stuff that was in 2025 that may get done in 2026, and I don't want to shoot us in the
Right.
premature.
Tracy? Oh, Peter, you have your hand up. Thank you for your patience while Tracy let me know you're there.
So, Troy, can you back up for your reduction for the so for property tax, why is that much difference?
I don't know 100%, but I believe it's because there's been a lot of people protesting's not the right word. You can challenge the valuation of your property.
Okay,
And a board at the county that reviews that, and if they agree with your challenge, then they'll lower your property tax.
gotcha. Thank you.
Good question, Peter.
There's also some property tax that doesn't get paid in the given year, and when people pay that later, it can come back to the city down the road. But if people don't pay their property taxes, that also can build too. That's part of that.
That just reminded me of another thing, and I don't know if this is the reason, but the county does have the property tax program for elderly and low-income folks or disabled, also low-income disabled folks, where they've cut their property tax bill in half. So as our population ages and baby boomers are maybe retiring and relying only on Social Security, that could happen.
So even though prices continue to climb like they are, you're thinking that our sales tax, you think that there's actually going to be just less sales overall? Because prices are going up, so that means but then that should also equal out to a higher
I think,
number.
yeah, so for sales tax, remember at the retreat, and how I included the public safety sales tax in.
There we go, yeah, thank you.
That's what I'm.
Yeah, that's what that is. Thanks.
I think it's still gonna increase, but just by.
Homework.
Eileen?
Let's see, cities and towns, receive a specific percentage, roughly 7%. The base 49.6 cents tax, yeah,
So it's a set.
to get a percent. And then back on like, can we see like a breakdown on the fire, because it steadily increases, can we see a breakdown like on their budget as far as where we see these, is it like on personnel, just on their budget? I'd like to see where the increases are, so.
And it's primarily the medic one expansions.
People less than 12 people?
Cost
I can't
that we get,
I'm mad.
we get a significant, the majority of that from the
Is it page 78?
But we didn't
78.
get covered for the training, correct? So there was that big jump up for that year, but now it should level off.
That's why the fire budget increased at such a rapid rate, because we added.
Page 78 in your budget notebook, everyone.
Oh, all right. Oh, thank you. Oh, you bring it to with you.
Yeah, it's,
Is that current? I mean, is that?
yeah, it's in our.
Pull it for you, it's the graph that you should.
Good question. So that is represented.
Does that represent the line going up?
New medic unit was 11 or 12 to firefighter, paramedic.
But it's not reflected on page 178, or on page
There's not like a line, specific line item.
It's not a graph, but it does, if you look at the 23-24 estimate of actual, it's 20 million for the biennium, but then in the 25-26 biennium, it jumps up to 26 million.
It doesn't explain it in,
Probably doesn't, have it in the words, no.
There's 4 million of it right
But,
there.
but if you look, the top line is the
Right.
salaries and wages jumps from 14 to 18, and that's
So
but there's not an explanation for that.
it's the medic one. Correct.
Great
Yeah.
feedback, Eileen, that she would like more detail.
And now, going forward, though, Medic One takes 80% of it, and Tumwater's only taking 20%. So we basically, in last year, we paid for the whole thing, give or take, and now, moving forward, we're only covering 20% of that. Is that correct? Okay.
So will we see that drop next year?
We
The
won't
line go
see-
back down?
We won't see the expense drop, but we'll see, it'll level off. It shouldn't, it'll only go up by whatever cost of living. So the Medic One piece comes in as revenue, and that's expense. We have to show all of both. So we can't, even though we get reimbursed 80% of the wages, we have to show both. And net.
And then also, I met with Chief, I guess it was last week now, but there was also portions of it where our fire department supplemented towards City of Olympia because they were short, and those went towards City of Tumwater's overtime pay, which went back to the general fund because City of Olympia reimbursed it, but that money hasn't been transferred over to. So I think he said that it was upwards of 200,000, right around that amount. So.
Even though,
Yeah,
I do.
go on, I'm with you.
My budget and finance committee. Okay, that'd be great, thanks.
Send it to me too.
I might not have time to get it for this Friday.
Unacceptable. Valid.
But yeah, if I was looking at that, I just.
It doesn't, yeah.
We didn't get the chance to see this before, now, sorry, I had
just
it
got
memorized in the book.
In January.
Looking at that and seeing those things.
Oh,
and then
line,
it's $300.
Yeah.
And it doesn't explain it in the bubbles above,
Mhm.
like where that came from, so.
Big jump.
Great question.
And I know we didn't buy.
No, but we didn't count on paying for the training for those firefighters. And that was the big thing, and, yeah.
Yeah, the fire truck is coming later this year.
But that's what I liked when we were doing the budgeting before, when we got to see the sheets.
Points, again, will be reflected as we move forward.
Might actually be in here.
Oh, see?
Yeah, it is actually in here, I believe. I don't know what page it is, but there's, Brittany and I went through it.
Going
Let's
down.
continue to his presentation.
All right.
Let's get distracted by more Excel sheets.
Okay. Okay, so with those changes, no changes to expenditures, leaving that budget alone for 2026, reducing the revenue expectation for 2026. If the revenue came in exactly at 46.6 million and the department spent the entire $49.5 million budget, we would dip into fund balance to the tune of $2.8 million. My hope is that I don't think we'll save $6 million this year like we did in 2025, but my hope is that we'll save some money and not have to spend $2.8 million. So we'll see what happens there.
And Troy, for the biennium,
Hey.
we have budgeted 5.6
Get away from-
million, right?
Yeah.
For fund balance, so this is performing almost $2 million better than what was
What we approved.
approved.
Yes.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line. Okay.
Bottom line, we should end up much better than we started.
Does that make sense?
Nerd about numbers.
Commissioner, right, what we approved was going into the end fund balance more.
Yes.
this is still going to the end fund balance less.
And only if we spend
And only it.
Right.
all of 2026.
Right.
In 25, we spent $6 million.
So we are digging out the hole.
Digging out of the hole. Okay. Okay.
Megan?
Oh, yes.
We talked a tiny bit about this, and I also think I mentioned this to you, and it's the question of, okay, so what kind of guidance do department directors get, and how does the conversation go? I'm not like bringing this on behalf of department directors, I'm just very curious, because it sounds aspirational, and I don't mean that with any disrespect. Like, I'm wondering what the guidance process looks like, because I know it's my understanding that some departments have needs that are still going to be needs, and want to understand how we think we might actually land. Does that make sense?
I think that was the verbal guidance we've given department directors is try to work within your 2026 budget. If there's something that you didn't spend and you need to move that forward, please use maximum discretion and do it for only things that are a high need and priority. And so we didn't tell them, do not move anything forward, because I know there were some projects that were delayed last year.
Right.
So there's a little bit of a window there, but I did encourage them to use strong discretion, because anything that we move forward from 2025 just increases that difference number and cuts further into the reserve. So that was the direction that they've been given.
And then you guys will be keeping track as the months go to see where we continue to fall. And you'll do, I know you do updates to budget and finance, but you'll do another quarterly update? Okay.
Yeah, we will definitely, yes, monthly updates to Budget and Finance Committee, and quarterly updates to the council still going forward. And then as we start the budget process and we get the first draft of the budget out, in addition to conversations you may have with the mayor and with Paul, we'll also have 3 or 4 budget workshops over the experience. Pretty robust for us. Okay, so this is probably a little too.
Vision
small
test
to
time.
see, so this is just.
Oh, look at you go.
So this is going out the 10 years, but we're zooming in. And don't panic when you see red. That is where the cliff is, and I'll show you a picture of that in a minute. But what that means, that's just a formatted cell that I made where if it drops below the required reserve balance, which in 2030 is $9.2 million. Minimum required balance is 9.7. When that year it drops to 9.2 million, so it's formatted to turn red. So I see the red. Wait, what's going on? So that's just another close-up view. Okay, so next is the cliff, but before we do that, just a reminder that growth has helped us for about 2001, stay ahead of the cliff and keep moving it out. In the Great Recession in 2019, we had a very low inflation environment, which really helped us costs. Pandemic hit, we had some budget reductions that we talked about last time we met, as well as stimulus funding and really strong sales tax. And then from 2020, 2021 to current, we've been in a high inflation, high wage growth. So this is the updated cliff, the one we showed you last time, which was from 2024. Had the cliff in 2028. It's now been pushed out to 2030. That's good news. That's based on the performance of 2025 and those budget savings that we had. So that's really great. Now that is looking ahead, not planning on adding a bunch more people. It's not adding yet. It's not kind of status quo. So now we need to start thinking about adding some debt. As you know, we've got a lot of big projects. So for this assumption, this isn't identifying any specific projects because some of them we can't talk about yet. But this would be for the general fund. Figure maybe we package some projects together and it's about $40 million. At a 4.755% interest rate over 30 years, that would give us a $2.5 million annual debt service payment. So as we think about that.
I have a question.
Yep.
Sorry. So what is our annual debt payment now before adding that?
It is zero.
Okay.
There,
Paid off the golf course, right? We did that, the
did that
internal.
2 years ago, yeah. Yeah, and it's paid off the interfund loan.
Yeah.
The last fire truck is paid off.
Yeah.
Debt-free.
Pretty
Where's that?
remarkable, right, as far as the city?
Yeah.
That is
Or is-
incredible.
Yeah.
Very right. Yeah.
Where's the interest rate coming from? 4.75?
That's from our, bond underwriter. That was from February.
Peter, your hand is up.
Yes. Troy, can you go back to that graph, please? This one right here. So if I'm looking at this correctly, it's showing that in 2024, 2025, our expenditure is outpaced our revenue, and yet our deficit is zero. How is that?
Okay, so the red line is the expenditures, and you're correct in about 2025, or end of 2025, the expenditures start to surpass the revenues. And then the gray line is the ending fund balance, and so that's when the expenditures are higher than the revenues, that's where it starts to fall down. And then the yellow line, I can see that is not a zero, but I could see where you might think that looking at this. I will change the colors on this to make that easier to read in the future. That's the minimum required fund balance. So that's actually in that where the gray line and the yellow line meet, that ending fund balance is about $9.7 million.
Oh, okay. But from a layman point of view, that seems like a zero to me.
I see what you're saying. Yes, and I will change the colors on this graph for future presentations so that it's easier to see that it's not zero.
Thank you.
Good clarification, Peter, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So again, small numbers, so we'll zoom in a little bit. So this is the same projection, but figuring in that debt service payment. And so what that does is, obviously, we're spending more money on debt, and so it brings that cliff 2030 up to 2029. Another big picture. And here is an updated cliff with the debt service included. Again, showing that cliff at 2029. So some things we need to consider when we're talking about debt and building these projects and like that. So are there revenues or are there opportunities for revenue when we do a project? Say we buy a building, is there an opportunity to lease part of that building out to someone else and we make some money? We can use that money to help pay that debt service payment. Are the utilities going to be involved? If so, the utilities can pay their fair share, and then that takes pressure off of the general. Another one might be the HCP. If we get the HCP done, that's going to cost us some money, but it's also going to open up development and allow more development to occur, which increases our tax. So, in some cases, when we spend money, we might be able to help make some money.
So on that projection too, with adding the debt, you didn't change any of the revenue projections either, right? Because I mean, in theory, if we're adding debt, we're hoping that it's going to stimulate and add revenue. So that hasn't been calculated in. Okay.
I'll try to work on that. I'll ask you to try to do some analysis on like the HCP and how much that might unlock it.
That's what I was gonna ask, is like, is there any way to play with that? I mean,
Play
to
with
play
it?
the what if,
Yeah.
or help us, like, when we're looking at, I was wondering, like, that whole exercise, that thing that we went through, with that Morgan guy, is that a tool that is still something that this would apply to, or is this something that you have to more that you're gonna have to use your noggin on.
I'll probably have to be fine.
Yeah,
I love that you said noggin.
I think too, it's comprehensive. If the HCP gets approved and development opens up, that's increased building permits, that's increased sales tax on construction, that's increased property taxes perpetuity at higher levels because they start out at the value that they are today instead of being limited from 1% back in 2000. So it's not a matter of, there's this many houses, and this number goes up. It has a ripple effect, across a few different items.
But it's just like us making the decision right now, like, oh, we're gonna buy a community center, like, we're gonna make this decision now. We're encumbering future councils with budgets. What are we doing?
That is true, but not
Yeah.
making those decisions also is gonna affect,
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
not making this, but doing
Yeah.
it with our eyes wide open.
Yeah.
Also remembering we have different funds, so we have the Metropolitan Park District,
Yep.
which was
Right.
approved by voters with the expectation.
I was using that as an example.
Right.
It's just like,
Great point.
by not doing it, the transit, by not doing light rail, it's cost, taxpayers millions of dollars more when in the sixties, they could have done it, or the seventies, and they bombed because it cost too much, and now we're.
Now it costs way more.
Yeah, I don't want to be the council that bonks, but I
Right.
also want to do it.
Can you go back to the last graph? So will you just remind us what happens if we reach the cliff? Our bond rating might go worse, or what?
Possibly, if our reserves are too low, that would affect our bond rating. If we've already issued debt and stuff, they're not looking at our bond rating again, but we do have to continually submit financial statements to them as we pay that debt service off, so, it could trigger something where. Bond rating. Now, they can't.
I know.
They can't go back and, they
I don't
can't go
want
back and change our
take it
interest
back.
rate or things like that. But future bond ratings certainly could be affected.
So the first thing we've talked about is adopting a sustainable budget. May mean we have to adjust service levels possibly or increase revenue. So those are your two options, basically. We look for increasing revenue or adjusting expenses. And we'll be tracking this. We would never let it get to that point in 2029 because the sooner you make those adjustments, the less impactful they are.
And then they push.
Example of revenue, just for example, one thing that we're talking about that'll likely come back before the council in a few months, so this is a really early preview and heads up, but historically, the city collected fire impact fees. That's actually what funded building the main fire station. As we look to debt service the remodel of T2, one of the things that we're discussing about is possibly reinstating fire impact fees, which are fees on new construction, similar to park impact fees and transportation impact fees. And so if we were to implement something like that, those funds could then be utilized to pay back the debt on T2, which then relieves that burden from the general fund. So that's an example of a new revenue opportunity that we could look at as we move forward. And then looking at utility funds for projects, looking at Metropolitan Park District to fund projects. It's not only the general funds burden. So those are all things that will fiscal benefit district. So just different examples of different funds and way to structure finance.
All right. And, yes, talk briefly about expenditure and revenue levers. So as Paul said, are there ways we can reduce expenditures? That's okay. No apology. We can evaluate service levels, maybe rethink how we do some things. Are there contracts that we have out there that we can renegotiate, maybe get more favorable terms to the city? Are there different ways of doing business where we can raise more revenue or decrease? All things that we can look at on the expenditure side. In addition to fire impact fees, which I did not include, on this, so thank you both. Some of the revenue options we have, House Bill 2015, which was approved last year by the state legislature. If we qualify, that come out for us, we could levy a 0.1% sales tax that would help pay for public safety. That would be just a council vote. As I was wrapping up property taxes last year, I was talking to a guy at the county and learned that we have a little bit of bank capacity in our property tax that we tapped into. Really helpful. Yes.
What does that mean?
So bank capacity, that basically means in previous years, there were times we didn't levy all of the property tax that we could have. And so that was reserved for us to access it.
How would we do that? What would be the impact? Who would be taxed and when and how would they be taxed?
It's pretty much everybody. Obviously, large people who pay more property tax, like large businesses, companies, pay a larger share, so more to them and less to the homeowners. But it is a property tax on everyone in our jurisdiction, or all the homeowners.
When it says, go ahead.
Yeah, so bank capacity means there is a cap and we do not charge up to the cap. Is that what that means? Got it. That answer your question?
Yep.
Because every year when we pass, you give us the speech and then we always pass it, and we have the opportunity to do that at that time, but we usually elect not to do that. But is it a yearly thing? Is it the time you give us the speech, or can we do it at any time?
It's the time that I give you the speech.
And that's like first of the year or
November.
November? Okay.
It takes effect the first of the next year. It's in November.
So to consider it again, we'd have to talk about it in November. Or, okay.
Or
But then
leading
we
up-
have numbers by
We'll talk about
then.
it ahead of time.
We have numbers to back it up.
Some other revenue options you have available are the levy lift. That does require a public vote. I'm not recommending it. I heard that side.
Was your outdoor side?
Revenue option. Exercise that option. Another option we have is utility tax on non-stormwater utilities. That would also require a vote. Also not a recommendation. Telling you what options are.
When we say non-stormwater utilities, are we talking about the electric company and?
Gas,
Okay.
PSE,
Got it.
LMA, Pacific Disposal. Yeah,
So
we-
reasonable.
They
Yeah.
currently also pay, so, until 2024, we increased the utility tax on water, sewer, storm, which had been like 30 years since we've done it. It's a similar thing for the private utilities. Also, there's a 6% tax on them, city utility tax on them. It could be raised, but it takes a vote of the to raise it.
Brandon's waving.
Where are we in comparison to other jurisdictions close to us? Well, I know, but,
All that matters, Brandon, is we're
yeah,
cheaper.
and I want to say cheaper, I get it. I was just bringing that up, that we are, seems like significantly less than our neighbors.
I don't know what they charge on the private utility. I can ask around.
It's
As
just
we get further in these
12%.
discussions, if there are items up here that the council would like us to pursue, then we will go back and do that deep dive on each of these areas. And so this is just to give you a high-level menu of what is available.
Okay.
If you look at revenue, and the other option is kind of from the
I thought that was a really good question, though. I would love to know the answer to that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and we
We can get those departments, those tables exist.
Yeah.
Noted.
I think you're thinking of the utility rates that we charge for water, sewer, storm. And we are cheaper than the other cities on the utility rates that we charge. Was that your question, or are you?
Correct.
Oh, okay.
Well, that and in comparison to like what we would charge Because there's a fee that we charge like Comcast and everybody else as well. Is that standard across the state, or is it jurisdictional, or?
I thought they had to negotiate that. That was a big deal, because I remember
Mm-hmm.
Ann having to negotiate that. It's a right?
Comcast has a franchise fee.
Right.
That's what was negotiated.
Yeah, that took a long time. Yeah.
That was before I was here, but
Yeah.
I personally,
Before I get, Trey, how many more slides do you have? I'm just doing a time check.
just a couple.
Okay, Megan.
I have more questions about a franchise fee. We pay a fee to Comcast as a city?
They pay out.
Okay, good. I was like, please tell me it's not.
And some, we don't get as much as to. But ultimately.
It's been going down slowly as a telephone. Technology, people are doing streaming more of it.
Oh,
Okay.
Joan's got her hand up.
Joan Kathy. Thank you.
Mhm.
My computer's jumpier than I am. This thought came to my mind when we were talking about the North End Fire Station. And way back when we talked about the people in that area getting a break on their home insurance. I know that sounds like an old thing, but I was wondering if some of the work that we're doing now on it and some of the changes we've made to our service, fire service in general, has anything changed on the insurance for people in the North End?
It should have, yeah. Brandon's,
Yes.
Councilmember Whedon was saying yes. The chief could answer it much better than me, but, we did our rating improved last year, which is supposed to have the effect of lowering insurance for people. Better.
Yep.
Numbers.
So it won't have any impact on anything we're doing there now? This is more cosmetic and less service wise? I mean, service.
So I think if we remodel T2 and move forward with that project, then once that work is done and we have the third bay, we're better set up for the future, that will impact our rating and then could have another positive impact in the future, but that wouldn't happen until that construction project is done and implemented.
Okay. I'm asking because I remember that just from being on council, and I also was made me feel like old times. Someone that I know that lives in the North End that had that conversation with me back when I was running for office. Ask that again. You know, they're happy about what's going on, and with the North End Station, wanted to compliment the city on moving forward on that, and then ask the question about their insurance rating. So I just wanted to get some conversation from the bigwigs here about that.
Well, thank you for that.
And I got.
You, Joan. You got what?
I
Got
said
her answer.
I wanted to get it from the bigwigs, and all the bigwigs are there, so I got it.
All right.
Pass it on.
Thank you. Okay, just a couple left here, I think. Okay. So for next steps, we've just got a tiny bit of 2026 data so far. When we get about halfway through the year, as part of the budget process, we'll have 6 months of actual data for Tumwater. We'll estimate the second half of the year, and then that becomes our baseline as we update the forecast again for the 27-28 budget. And as we talked about earlier, many more conversations and presentations coming. And I got several questions in the last 2 weeks about sales tax, which is came from a variety, it came from council members, it came from staff, it came from citizens, and so, residents rather. So, I looked into that, and here's what it is. If you go to one of our local small businesses, thank you for shopping local, and you spend $10.33, you will pay $1 in sales tax. Of that $1.67 goes to the state, 8 cents goes to the county, 12 cents goes to intercity transit, and 12 cents comes to the Tumble.
It's a great graphic.
Mhm.
That's only 99 cents, that's correct?
That's probably around, it probably goes out like 4 decimals.
We don't have pennies anymore, so.
Brandon?
It's there.
There's a piece missing.
Sometimes we get visitors from other countries, and the McDonald Islands come in, right there and see. Unfortunately, we can't accept it, but it does look pretty good.
So good.
Yeah.
So more to come. Right?
More to come.
Thank you, Troy.
Thank you.
Excellent.
So, Chief Keels, I don't know how you're gonna transition to, come on, to police policy 539. Body worn camera policy for,
Blueberries, can Blueberry be a mascot today? Yeah. There you go.
Chief Keels.
Okay, this evening, we're going to talk about the body worn camera project that is finishing up. And so I'm going to start kind of from the beginning because not all of us were here when it started, so there's some historical perspective on where we were, where we started, where we are now, and how we got here. So the implementation steps for body worn, the program was, first we sought budget approval. That's complete. We had to seek and implement additional staffing. That is also done and complete. We conducted a needs assessment to find out exactly what do we need, what would meet the community needs and the city needs. That was done and complete. We did our due diligence to make sure that what we were going to use for our video solution actually worked and was best in the industry standard. And so that is complete. Then we had to do contract negotiations with the vendor, which took a little while, and that's complete. And then we had to implement a body worn camera policy. Since this is a brand new program in the city, we had to define how the video cameras were to be utilized, when they're supposed to be utilized, the expectation of officers, how video was going to be handled, how video was going to be stored, how video was going to be redacted and provided to public when it was requested. So that was a pretty big lift. And we reached out to our area partners, Lacey and Olympia, and our body worn camera policies is very, very similar to theirs. Part of the reason for that is so when officers are helping each other out, there's commonality in expectations so that when other officers are coming to our jurisdiction, their body worn camera policies are vastly different than ours and ours vastly different than theirs. So we all pretty much mirror the same thing. Then we went into the procurement
Chief, I have a
process.
question.
Sure.
You mirror the same thing, but who was first with the body worn camera? Was it Olympia or Lacey?
I believe it was Lacey.
Okay.
No, I'm sorry. I believe it was Olympia. It was Olympia, Lacey, then the sheriff's office.
When did, yep,
I don't know.
when did TJ Maxx?
When did the Evergreen State call it?
Evergreen?
The Evergreen State call, yep.
I don't know. I know that we were,
Football coaches or the referees, they got it?
yeah.
Yep.
They're everywhere.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah. When I was in Dublin, all the bouncers outside of the pubs had body worn cameras. Sorry.
Okay.
They didn't have to use them for me. I just walked by. So, they all had body worn cameras.
You're welcome. So we've had in-car video cameras for a very long time. We were the first agency to implement
We
it.
were the first.
We're the first to implement in-car video. Yeah, and then we kind of stood still.
Did things change in that 2 years?
They did not. So once the policy was created, through conversation and negotiation with the police union, we moved into, pure procurement, which is, getting them here. And all the in-car cameras and all the body worn cameras are all now here. And installation is now complete on all the body worn, cameras. I think we have about 6 vehicles left for in-car cameras. So we are at the end of the program. So kind of how the timeline went on this. In 2025, we promoted an administrative sergeant to help implement the program and manage the equipment as we going forward, because we have 49 body worn cameras and a decent amount of in-car cameras. So that's going to require someone's attention to make sure they're working properly, they're functioning, they break, getting them repaired, troubleshooting, all that. In September, we promoted a record supervisor that is going to run the records division just to manage the sheer amount of data that's about, or video that's about to come our way. So the body worn camera project officially started on September 4th. That's when I was tasked and our team developed to really get this project moving forward. We had talked about it for a really long time. Tried to secure funding for a long time, finally got that. Then it was time to hit the ground running and get this thing pushed forward. Quite frankly, because the initial timeline that was provided was just too long, and the community expected to have body worn cameras sooner rather than later. So it became our main focus. In September, we completed the needs assessment. In October, body worn camera team recommended a due diligence check with Olympia Lacey and the sheriff's office to see how Axon Video Solutions was working for them. And the reason why we did that is we wanted to make sure, again, that all the big agencies are using Axon as their vendor. It was on the state approved contract list. And also, again, all agencies using the same video technology. Everyone knows how they work, what the expectations are, when they're on, versus now, if different agencies have different cameras, you may not know what to look for. When is it recording? When is it not recording? What is its capability? If I have an Axon camera and I show up at another agency's jurisdiction, what happens when they turn their cameras on? Does it activate our cameras? So with the 4 big agencies being on the same video solution, we now have commonality in policy and commonality in equipment and commonality in training. A final demo was presented to the command staff in October, and that's when we began the cost and contract discussions with Axon. November, the tentative policy was created. We bargained impacts with the police guild for the changing and working conditions. They were very agreeable and reasonable in our discussions. So that was about as easy a process as Michelle can attest to that we've gone through, and it was not contentious in any way, shape, or form. We were all clearly on the same page, and we all wanted the same thing, and we all worked very closely together to make sure that the policy worked for everyone, the community, the officers, the city, and the agency. In December, final costs were determined with Axon. We came to a final agreement with a MOU with the police union was completed. And then council approved the contract with Axon. And that was important because getting that signed in December saved the city a significant amount of money. Because the costs will go up about 10% a year if I remember correctly. And that's when we placed the equipment order. The equipment arrived ahead of schedule. We weren't expecting it till end of February, beginning of March, and we actually got it at the end of January. So that was good. And then we began working on the timeline with Axon to set the installation training and the deployment of the devices. They're a pretty big company, so getting on their schedule was super important because they're flying their teams out from all around the country to do our training and installation. They weren't available in March, or in February, but they were in March. And so installation on the in-car cameras and training began on March 18th. And the draft policy briefing, occurred with Public Health and Safety on March 10th, where they recommended that, the policy be brought to this council work session.
Chief, I have a question.
Yes.
So has is the equipment now in the location where Parks and Rec were at?
No,
So you haven't moved in down there yet?
that is where detectives are. Right now. So the body worn camera, equipment is assigned to an officer. So they keep it, take it with them, and they use charging docking stations in the station to download video when they're in the station, and it does it cellular when they're out in the field, and they have charging cords in their car. We recommend that when they come into the station, that they take it off, put it in a charging port, so that they're not inadvertently recording things inside of the station. So private conversation, breaks, stuff like that.
Okay, thank you.
I'm happy to report that as of this morning, the body worn camera rollout is complete, with the last of the officers being trained and receiving their body worn cams. And our tentative timeline, when I brought this to the mayor and the city administrator, was, I said, well, we're really shooting for like the end of June. I was hoping for more, and so we,
Sorry, what's today's date, chief? What's today's date?
March 24th. So the initial, when this all started, the initial timeline was like 2 years.
2027, the end of
Yeah.
2027?
And we were able to accomplish this in 7 months. So, and that was done primarily with how everyone worked together. And we worked really hard. This has been our primary focus in September. So, so just to go over it again, the Axon equipment that we have, I believe, 49 body worn cams. We'll receive brand new cameras every 30 months as part of our Axon contract, which is 5 years. The in-car cameras, we will get replacement cameras every 5 years as long as we renew the contract with Axon. So if we don't renew the contract with Axon, it's fine. The cameras belong to us. We purchased them. We just don't get new ones. And then we lose maybe some of their capability too if we're not paying for their licensing. So pretty much the cameras, we'd have to find another video solution. Real-time translation, we identified that need, and actually, as of probably an hour and a half ago, we used that technology in the field with a Spanish speaker who didn't understand or speak any English, and one of our officers was able, there was a collision, was able to have a conversation, figure out what was wrong, let him know what they needed, and he was really worried about if his car was drivable or not. An officer was able to check out his car, let him know everything was okay, and it was almost like they were having, a pretty seamless conversation, as much as you can have, between a device and people. So it worked awesome. So the officers were so excited that they were like, hey, you got to come here and see this. Yeah, and future council.
I mean, I think it's a game changer for our community and how we serve.
Yeah. And it's important to note that it's not just Spanish, that it's 50+ different languages out there. And then the body cams themselves, I believe, identify the languages automatically. So you don't have to go select it. It just knows which language it needs to translate. And then down, as we get this out, maybe come back to council to either show like a video demonstration of that working, or have officers in real time, I speak Spanish, and a couple others are doing a demonstration on what that looks like.
We want to see that.
Is that good that we waited? Do the other jurisdictions have that functionality, or is it because we have a newer system, perhaps? Or
No, so this is newer functionality to the Axon system. So as functionality comes online, it becomes available to all the Axon users. So it's a subscription service. Yeah. So, some agencies have paid for it, some have not. When we did it, we saw the value in having that, get rid of the cell phone or having the phone, pass the phone back and forth, especially because of how time consuming it is, and being able to figure out right away, what is your emergency? What do you need? How can we get you the help you need? It's not anything that you would use for like doing a long interview with someone. That's not what it's intended for. But for conversational, figuring out, communicating who you are, what you need, how can I help you, it was phenomenal. Yeah. We have the redaction assistance to make our redactions faster for the public disclosure request, just because of the amount of data and inadvertent with video, as you're recording video, anything that shouldn't be seen, for example, like our in-car computers that have all the sensitive data, when an officer sits in their car and they're recording that, all of that has to be blacked out. So someone has to go do that, so we needed to find a way to make it faster, right? And so they can do this at a much faster rate. And Axon Community Request, this has already helped in the last few days. Basically, if we go somewhere and we need information from the public, whether it be, hey, you captured something on your Ring camera, you captured something on your security camera, now you would have to email or call an officer, they'd have to come get it, you'd have to put it on a thumb drive, they got to bring it back, then you got to download it on a computer. Now we're able to, with a case number, send a link to that person and say, when you get this, click this link, upload it here, and it automatically goes into the Axon evidence system, so officers can get that information like faster. Also, when an officer's off and someone brings a thumb drive video, says I brought video, and we're trying to figure out, well, what officer selected this. Now we know, because that link specifically attaches the information to a case, photos, documents, video, all that stuff.
It's a great program, as I've used it before in my own private business. Uploading it is very easy. It just, yeah, it's great.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Question about the redaction assistant. When you first started talking about it, I was like, oh, this is a software feature. And then I was like, oh, this is a human being on our staff. Is it a human being or is it a software feature?
It's a human on our staff that is telling the software what to look for and redact.
Okay.
So, for example, if I want to redact a computer screen, I take the little box and put it over the computer screen. It identifies the computer screen, and then as it's going through the video, it keeps the box on that object, so that someone's not having to keep redoing it the whole time. Same thing with faces and stuff as well. But even though it's doing that, someone still has to go through and verify that it didn't make a mistake or didn't forget, especially with juveniles, that it didn't not capture that. We need to make sure that the redaction was still done correctly. The difference is that they're not doing that in real time anymore. So if we collect an hour video, it would take now someone an hour they have watched an hour worth of video. Well, by doing that now, the software will do that, and now instead of the staff member doing that, they're now just like a quality check to make sure it didn't miss anything. So that's where you get the time savings on that. And they're still trying to figure it out. They tried to explain all the features to me, and a lot of it was like way over my head. But the records folks are doing, they've got it, and they were super happy about this product versus the product that we're using now. And then Axon performance, that's just for us internally to identify how are the products working, how often are they being activated, are they making sure that they're being used, that there's no problems with them. So that's kind of a back-end diagnostic type thing that makes it easier on our end to make sure body cams are being used, and we can identify problems sooner rather than later, versus finding out right now it's like an officer's mic didn't work, but we didn't find out for 2 days, and how much video was missed during that 2 days. So that's what we're trying to avoid. So this is what they look like. In the upper left, they're on the carriers of the officers. They're not too big. You can see Officer Batimer on the bottom, right underneath his right hand is where it sits on the vest, and the camera resolution is great. And that's what a docking station looks like. So when they come into the station, they would put their camera in a docking station, and then it would download any video that's on the camera, and then it would charge it as well.
Yeah. I can't see the camera on his body, so is that under his?
There.
All right, got it. Thank you.
Sorry about that. Yeah, it's a black camera on black uniforms. That's why we did the close-up there on the left, to kind of see how it attaches and all that. And with that, I put this in here just to really show that this project in 7 months became possible only because of the amount of support it received from the police union, the mayor, the police department, and city council. If all four of those entities would not have been working so closely together, this would have been, it would have been drug out for who knows, how long. Just working with the union could, that could significantly slow down the process. So the draft policy was submitted with your packets, I believe. So with that, I would take any questions you might have. What?
Between departments.
Radio.
They're listening on the scanner, and WSP has their channel. You guys have one channel, the sheriff's department has another channel, and there's no, can we follow up? Yeah, I just want to make sure I ask the board. Any questions from council? So Eileen, let's follow up.
So, it's probably part of the redaction part, but it's like when the officer goes into a house, and and they film everything, they're allowed to film, you have little kids and everything, and they're allowed to go into a house and film, right? It just seems, so if children, then they redact that later if they're not supposed to have little kids. That's what happens.
Yes, all that and all photographs. So anything that would identify a juvenile will all have to be redacted.
And then I was curious about the retention, because it says the Washington State Records Retention Schedule, and I was curious what that means and how long, because it didn't say, because there was one about, said it's 60 days, but it was inadvertent, but do you know what the retention schedule is?
I do. I don't know what the retention schedule days are, because it's different for different items.
Okay.
So inadvertent recordings would be, I walked into the station and I accidentally turned on my body worn camera. It didn't record anything. It wasn't an interaction with the public. It wasn't case related. And so those have a shorter retention schedule than a misdemeanor case or a felony level case. So it just depends on what the case or the situation is about. And I have staff that know what the redaction schedule is. So what happens in Axon is we set up the retention schedule for the type of case. So it will already know the officers tag the case. So if I go to, let's say I go to a collision, the officer will tag it as a collision, and then the retention schedule has been uploaded in Axon, so the Axon storage of the video will know, hey, collisions are, this is not the right retention date, but it would know, hey, we keep collisions for 1 year. So it will know that, hey, on this day, a year from now, that video will be automatically deleted from the system. And it will do that for all the different, and there are some that are just permanent, that will become permanent video records, and it knows that too.
The other piece was the public disclosure part. It's just, so if somebody requests public disclosure, wants a video, do we have any chain of custody? What happens to, what do they do with it? Do they, when you hand something over, who has the right to get it, and can they do what they want with it? If you have an accident scene or something like that, can anybody request it? And then do you have any, if they put it on Facebook, are there any rules to this? It's like that, the guy that, made that remark about, the bounty on that poor woman, and then that went viral. And so, that's the worst case for an officer to be portrayed that way, and it was unfortunate all the way around. But when that kind of stuff goes out, where are the rules? What are the rules?
Yeah, unfortunately, the public disclosure rules are pretty open. So anything that we collect is open to the public. Only thing we do is redact anything that the law has an exemption for us to redact, make sure it can't go out.
Right.
There are no exemptions prohibiting someone from how they use the video. They can do anything, they pretty much can do anything they want with it.
So if you lose a loved one in an accident and you as a family member don't want it out there, but if somebody requests that video, then you're SOL?
And what we would do is, now we would do our redaction part to, cover or as much as we can.
Yeah.
It just depends on the situation and what the public disclosure or what the law says that we can or can't do.
I don't mean to be grim, but it just seems like there's people out there that
It's the same
control the
thing.
world.
Let's not give them an A.
But, yeah.
Go dark, go.
And the public disclosure rules still apply to what's in our dash cams right now,
Yeah.
so.
Right.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, the only difference is that we'll be collecting more.
There are pros and cons to every action that we take, and I think the benefits of this greatly outweigh the risks.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm assuming that this happens, would not happen very often, so that those kinds of requests don't happen, and I'm just.
I'd like to know if you
doing
booked the two women in this video. Did you book these two women?
I did try to make away with the camera, and I
Yeah.
didn't get away with it.
I'm sure you two weren't. That's a very good presentation for, you know, we've been talking about these body worn cameras long, and, you know, just to hear you talk about all the different things they can do, or how it works in police work and everything, and to see them up close. Thank you for that. It's very good, very helpful, and I hope it adds to our good policing.
It's an equity add too.
With the translation only specific portion of it, is there any way to transfer any of those over to the fire department too? So that if the fire department is having,
They don't have body worn
no, I know, but just the translation piece, is there any kind of a technology where?
cameras attached to the body worn camera.
Correct.
Are you
it's not for
asking,
the
is
fire
there
department.
another piece of
Yes, is there another
equipment
piece
that
that's
would?
specific for fire departments so that they can use that translation? Correct, that, I'm not
I have
asking
to use
him,
their
I'm
phone.
asking,
Looking at me?
yes,
Looking at me?
yes. See if there's an option for the fire department also to be able to be in those emergency
Their
situations.
iPhone.
Yeah,
I mean, the good news is that if it was like a collision, like what happened today, police would be with fire.
with there, yeah.
Yeah,
No, I'm not aware of any standalone technology. I think this was an add-on to.
Add-on.
If there is.
What I would say to that is if the fire department ran across a situation where they were having difficulty in communicating, they could always
Always
reach out to
request, yeah.
us, and we'd be more than happy to go there and help. Like we do with our bilingual officers now, we offer that not just to fire, but to any other agency in the area. We would offer that same support and assistance to the fire department as well.
One more follow-up question about the translation. Is that gonna be part of the back-end data about usage that could be available? Like 5% of the, you know, cases that we deal with, we use the translation feature, like just about, I'm curious if we'll be able to know
It's a great
anything.
agenda item for public health and safety.
I will ask
Yeah.
and find out.
You're gonna make a note of the metrics, the start tracking. Great question, Megan. We're gonna move on, because we're gonna be done by 8, and we still have a presentation and a tour. So thank you so much. If you have follow-up questions, you know how to reach the chief, and you know how to reach the chair of public health and safety. Thank you so much. Paul?
Tracy, thank you. All right, so I am just gonna set some context. We are about to do a tour of City Hall. For Councilmember Kathy and Councilmember Agabi, we could also arrange to do this at a separate time since you're both remote. But I wanted just to take some time and talk about City Hall. We have some space challenges here. We've outgrown this space. We have for quite some time. But it's also been a great facility for us. It's iconic, it's historic, the community's familiar with it. It served us well for decades. I just want to talk about, you know, City Hall is more than just a building. It's the place where we do engagement. We have public participation, access to essential services. This is where folks come to pay their bills, purchase building permits. A lot of business comes in and out of this building every day. It's a symbol of community belonging. It's where we are held to be transparent and accountable for the community, and it's a hub for local decision-making City Hall, it's not just about government, it's shared space, that help people feel connected, involved, and a part of something bigger in their community. City Hall has not always been in this facility. The picture on the left is when this was started to be constructed in 1987, which eventually replaced what's now called the Old Town Center, or known as the Old Town Center, which was initially built in 1939. So that was the first City Hall, and we are currently in the second City Hall. A lot has changed between then and now. When this building opened, this was built in 1987. It replaced the old City Hall. It's the former site of the Sunset Drive-In movie theater. At the time, we had 63 full-time employees across the entire city. So that's not one department, that's the full city with 63 employees. We served a population of 8,500 people. Now, we're home to 9, the City Hall building is home to 9 of the city's 12 departments, about 25,000 square feet. We're serving a community of more than 27,000. And we have 255 full-time employees across the city, of which 113 employees work out of City Hall. That's about 47%. So if you were to just think it was about the same amount in 1986, that'd be 27 employees working out of City Hall when this building first opened compared to the 113 working out of here now.
Paul,
Yes.
I would like to see the percentage of the increase, from 63 to, 255, and the amount of people now from 8,500 to the population now.
Our finance director is going to work on
We got
that.
Eileen and Troy doing a standoff with their calculators, and Michelle.
That number is about
75%.
400%,
Okay.
70,
and the population is about 300%.
One thing I will add
75% Councilmember Jones.
Michelle.
is we are approved for 275 FTEs, so we currently have 20 vacancies.
Would like to see that on the slide, this way, you know, our
We want
residents.
percentages.
Yes.
Noted.
Clearly see the increase.
Got it? Yep, very good. We will get you that information. Perhaps we'll include it in a weekly update coming to you. I just kind of wanted to highlight that the spatial constraints that we're feeling today, they didn't start today. It's not like just because I'm giving this presentation tonight, all of a sudden now there's a problem. This has been a growing issue for a number of years as the city has continued to grow. As you know, the Parks and Recreation Department was pushed out of City Hall to create more room for the police department. They're now at the facility down on the bottom red dot down there. We have our water resources staff and sustainability staff are working out of the community college up on the upper dot up there as well. And so we're starting to have staff put all over the place. We have transportation engineering that's currently looking at a public works facility. One of the decisions that was evaluated and looked at is what if the admin staff for transportation engineering and the water resources and sustainability staff went to the new public works facility. That would create a whole second story and cost about $8 million more on that project. So we're trying to find creative solutions to these, and these creative solutions have been happening for a number of
Yes.
times.
I'm just.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was gonna stop. Bring it on.
Oh, I don't know if you're gonna show the numbers, but I would like to see what the cost of the rental space is.
Yep.
Okay.
For a total, right? So for a total cost, okay, Parks and Rec is located in this facility.
Parks and Rec is moving to Serendipity, which is about for 1.5.
Yes. Water resource, they're located here. We're paying this amount of rent for them.
Mhm.
Total cost is whatever it is.
Yeah.
I would like to see that.
We will get a full financial analysis.
Okay.
This is intended to set the stage for the tour.
Silly.
Oh, my
Yeah.
bad.
But
You're fine. You're fine.
I'm with you. Yeah, that was a good question.
Keep your questions coming because that will help us know what information we have. But mostly, we just wanted to set the stage. I want to talk about the challenges, and before we get into this, I'll drill down to just challenges that we have here in this space as council.
Cold.
It's
That is
cold.
a challenge.
Small.
All right over there.
Usually we cram department directors against the back, and then we cram the public immediately right in front of them, and then there's not a lot of space. we have the public testimony spot, which sits over the very small city attorney and city administrator spot. We had a cram council meeting not long ago where there were literally people leaning over Karen, and we had to get people to kind of escort out, or not escort out, but push back a little bit so that there was literally just a space there. We've had 2 executive sessions in my time here, one of them in the Sunset Room, which has walls that people can hear through when we're having confidential conversations. We were also in this room here, which didn't have enough spots for everyone to sit, and we also had people out here. I bring up those examples because those are one of many examples that happen all day, every day, and we do our best to make it work, but what I would say is just making it work is getting harder and harder as we grow increasingly. We have situations, which you'll see as we walk through, where we have 3 staff to an office. Particularly as I'll use HR as the example. You have 3 staff in there. Usually if you're going to HR, what you're going to talk about is a sensitive topic oftentimes, and it's not something you want to talk about with other people in the room. Unfortunately, there's also not a lot of places because the 2 rooms that we have don't have walls that folks can hear through as well. And so we really struggle in terms of having a lack of a conference room and spaces for people to go. Also, I've worked in buildings where there will be a designated space where people that work in a cubicle can go have a private conversation. We really don't have any of those items. There's not room for growth here. We've expanded everywhere we can, and in fact, we're trying to create spaces outside of here. Parking can be really challenging, particularly if you get here after 8:30. If you're one of the early ones and you come in right at 8 o'clock or before that, it's pretty easy to get a spot, but after that, good luck. It's a challenge. There are safety and security concerns about access to different spaces in City Hall, particularly for our folks that sit out front and downstairs. That's right, people can go right down those stairs. We have limited space for public meetings. It's hard to hold a community-wide meeting here. We don't really have, this is the best space. Conference rooms, we don't have any employee wellness space. We don't have lactation rooms, which are the new standard. We don't have any workout facilities. We don't have a space for folks to take a shower if they wanted to commute to work by bike or walk. There's limited natural light, particularly for Brandon's crew, as you'll see down in the basement. There's no windows, also in much of the police department as well. I've been meeting with employees one-on-one since I've been here. I've met with about 21 folks, and I would say probably 85% of them have talked about just how crammed it is, whether it be in the lunchroom or in office spaces or not having adequate meeting spaces. It's one of the number one things is we just don't have enough room to do our job in a quality way. Councilmember Gutierrez.
I might just be a little too critical, but if you would define what is no room for, because I'm thinking about, a residence now, thinking, what is no room for growth? You said something.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that question. No room for growth. So we're expected to have.
Michelle's point, right, about how many,
25.
Right.
20 vacancies.
Right. Right, I understand that. Just break it down, further, not enough parking.
Angela, can you make those, because I want us to walk around.
Okay.
Can you make a
Yeah.
note of these suggestions and email it
Yes.
to Paul?
I will.
Thank you.
And just real quick, we have new apartments coming online. We're serving a larger population. We're expecting to serve 9,000 more people. That's going to require additional staffing in order to be able to do that. There is currently nowhere to put them.
Okay. So good points, Angela. Thank you.
Yes.
You-
Yeah, I will wrap it up. So, the most important thing that we're trying to do is make sure that we're setting ourselves up for success in the future and that we're providing a quality service to the community. This is about employee retention, attracting and retaining some of the top quality people. It's about having efficient city operations. It's about maintaining trust and transparency with the community and preparing for growth. This will not get cheaper to address in the future. I think we talked earlier about how things 10 years or 20 years, it's only going to get more expensive. So kicking the can down the road on this issue will only cost us more in the long run, and will cost the taxpayers more in the long run. So it's something that we wanted to bring in.
It costs money and employee retention.
Peter, you have your hand up.
Yeah, so Paul, I understand what you're saying. So what you're saying didn't just start yesterday, the day before yesterday. So what is the solution? What are you proposing?
I'm proposing that tonight we take a tour of City Hall and we
No.
get an idea and know that this is something that we're going to be working towards over the next few months. There's some money in the budget to do some work on City Hall, and we've brought an architect under contract to do some initial space planning and talk about the needs of City Hall. And we thought it would be good tonight to start that process with a tour of City Hall to really set the foundation of where things are at now, so that we can talk about the different opportunities we want to pursue in the future to address our short-term, immediate, and long-term needs.
Okay, I understand that. I asked my question because I had I was saying to myself, this has to involve some construction or buying or building a new city hall and spending money. So when I asked Troy that question regarding our expenditure as pays our revenue, and that line that kind of threw me off, that I said was zero, and he said we only have 9 million. So we now have a bunch of stuff in the pipeline that I recall. We are looking to build a community center. We have two roundabout. We have the medic one, and as you're aware of what is going on in the Middle East, if by the end of the day, when all of that stuff hit the fan, each and every one of us is going to have to tighten our belt. So we should be aware that the economic outlook does not look good for us. So I'm not saying don't do this. I'm not saying don't do nothing. I'm just saying we all need to be aware where we're starting from with this
That's why we're
economic
having a
downturn.
presentation here. So thank you so much. That's perfect
Okay.
timing.
Okay. Thank you.
So,
So Michelle is going to start the tour. We're going to start with the upstairs. Then we'll head over to the police department. Chief Keeler, or would you?
I'm gonna go through and make sure on
Okay.
anything that needs to be off is off, and there's not a bunch of.
And then we'll wrap up with downstairs.
Come back here, we need.
Oh, look at the calendar.
Thank you both. Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Joan. See you.
Thank you.
And then someone will stay behind.
So we have about